I declare bankruptcy!
Bears beats Battlestar Galactica.
Depression? Isn't that just a fancy word for feeling bummed out?
Dwight, you ignorant slut!
Not only the years we've been at war, but from the moment, as a child, when we realized that the world could be conquered.
You're listening to Great Scott, the Office Podcast, and I'm Jay-Rey. With me is my deskmate, Jacob. We are a member of the Broken Jars Broadcasting Network, so visit brokenjars.xyz to check out all of our amazing content, and big what up to our sponsor, Zencastr. Visit Zen... Yeah, you got it. Go, do it. Boom. And as always, thank you to everyone who has contributed to our Patreon. It's patreon.com/brokenjars. We've got all types of fun tier rewards. We've got a Discord channel that people can get access to. We do personalized messages. We do nude images of my everything above my ankles. It's great. So go check that out too, because without our sponsors and without our Patreons, we would not be able to continue to do the amazing things that you love us to do. Yep. And yeah, so if you want to get in on that, sign up for our Patreon, at least even just for a month, so that we can up these dones to these folks in need in Houston and that whole surrounding area. It's been nuts. And I've been listening to a lot of NPR, and that's all they're talking about. But it makes sense because it's pretty nuts and terrible and very opposite of the fun vibe that we're putting onto this show. So donate money. We will donate money. Positive vibes. Everybody be safe. Yeah. Yeah. Your own blood. Right. Your own blood. Don't go finding homeless people to donate their blood. Opposite of what we're trying to do here. And on that note, we are here to talk about one thing and one thing only, The Office, plus any tangential conversations that come from talking about The Office. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, this will be hitting you on Labor Day itself. Just goes to show you, the folks here at Broken Jars, we work on holidays. We care about you. They don't... We are recording a little later than usual because, let me tell you, bro, in like the last hour and a half, 2 hours, me and my girlfriend were like on like, we're pulling some limitless stuff. You know, we're like grocery shopping, come over, unpack the car, pick up the dog, drop her off at the dog park. I go get Taco Bell, pick them up from the dog park, come home. I'm eating Taco Bell. She's unwrapping my headphones. Boom, 7:32. We're recording. So it's that's how we celebrate our Labor Day. So, yeah, we are coming right off of Niagara. So there has been a big wedding. Jim and Pam are away, but that does not mean that the hijinks at the office cease. I'm trying to. What the hell is the cold open? We're doing great. We're professional. Oh, it's a fundamental. Okay, so Michael is giving a meeting in the conference room. That's right. Trying to discuss, how you can maintain a positive attitude while you're working and all that thing. And he's got the word mentals underlined under fundamentals. And he's talking about how you need to keep it in your mentals to be positive and enjoy it. And Toby raises his hand. And he says, "But fun's in the word." And what's really great is like as he says it, it lingers on him just long enough for us to see that he's already started to stand up. Then we cut to Michael, and Michael says, "Get out," and Toby's already halfway out the door. He's like, "I know." Yeah, yeah, it's when they're crossing things off. Yeah, yeah. If you recall, the first time would have been during Diversity Day, I think. Where is that right? No, it's an early one though because Toby suggests that if they're all going to sit Indian style, and then Michael says, "Get out," because that's culturally insensitive. So, so the actual episode starts with Michael coming into the office. He's a little late. I don't really understand his schedule, but that's fine. Shows up. Everybody's already there, and there is a large Italian man sitting on the couch, waiting for. Oh, yeah, I assumed mostly because he. Well, because Aaron goes into what's on his schedule, so he has what the heck is it called? It's like a creative. Yeah, it's like creative thinking and then free play. So he pushes whatever his morning thing is to the afternoon. He pushes the afternoon till tomorrow morning. Just trying to figure out what the hell Michael's day consists of. But oh yeah, yeah, that's right. Okay. So yeah, so someone basically taking a deuce in the tank of your garbage in your toilet, so that you just get dirty poop water as you continue to flush your toilet. Oh my god. Yes, that is reasonable. I think you should. Right. Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm very fortunate that my girlfriend's mother is super handy. So when we moved into this apartment, the flusher wasn't totally working because I think a chain was just not connecting to the appropriate thing. So she bought a chain and came in and she fixed it, and I was like, hot damn. Well, maybe we gotta call my girlfriend's mom in. I will have my people call her people. Yes. Hmm. Yeah, because what did Phyllis get? She got like something like that. Yeah, 5 or 6 weeks. Yeah, I feel like they're probably gone for like no longer than 2 weeks for two reasons. Yeah, well, because we know they're broke also, so it's not like they can spend tons of money to be away for super long. That's right. Well, that's relative, Jacob, because I'm a broke man. We were just getting our oil changed earlier, and they're like, oh, well, if this thing's only just an extra $30, no problem. And I said, $30 is me dying that week. That's make or break. That's what I got in my bank account right now. That's how I'm living. So it is relative, but that's fair. It's probably one of their cheaper vacation options. I mean, honestly, they probably should have just went to Montage Mountain to go biking or shop at the lovely Steamtown Mall. Insert other Scranton jokes here. Yeah, which is better than like a hotel room for a week in Atlantic City. Yeah. Yeah. Um, right. But yeah, so Kevin's in there, and it's great. He's just having a big old fart box. So there is the man who is waiting for Michael is an insurance salesman. And we find this out as Michael and him are meeting in the conference room. But for whatever reason, Andy is instantly nervous. So, from what little Andy has gleaned from the situation, essentially an Italian man sitting on a couch, he has come up with an entire concept of this man's background, his actual profession, and possible criminal ties. That's correct. Yeah. Or as Ryan would say, there's actually five families. But yeah, Dwight's also in on it for whatever reason. So as this meeting's going down, Dwight and Andy are peeking through the windows there, kind of overseeing everything. No, I was going to say, I can't say that Dwight has been particularly racist, but now I'm remembering the entire Martin Nash thing. So, yes, Dwight is extremely racist, super sexist. You're right. He would think this. Um, yeah, right. Yeah. But during the conversation, we find out that this insurance salesman, who we find out his name is Grady, is sharing a lot of real world bad situations that could occur and using that as a sales tactic as to why one would need insurance, which I think, right, it kind of goes with that territory, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. So let me ask you this: as he's leaving, Grady goes to get his jacket, and the whole coat rack falls down. Now I've got it in front of me right now, and I'm trying to figure out: does he do it on purpose, or was it an actual accident? Yeah, because I guess I wonder. Dwight has that technique where he calls a competitor's customer service line and then puts the hold call on speaker. So is this a Grady technique where, like, on his way out of the office, he breaks something and goes like, "See, anything could happen." Yeah, it's tough because we're seeing him through the eyes of these paranoid assholes. So it's like, right, is he just being a cool fellow or not? Michael's kind of expressing his annoyance with Grotti mostly because he thinks he's a bad salesman. Right. Michael wants to take someone to Chili's for half a day. Yeah. Yeah, but Dwight and Andy are right there, and they're like, listen, this is what's actually happening. And they go on this spiel about how he's obviously in the mob because of two reasons. He's Italian, and he drives an SUV. That's right. And then we find out his real name, which is Grady, and then both Andy and Dwight bug out because of how similar that is to Gotti, which is nuts. Yeah, yeah. Which is, I think there's a similar 30 Rock joke where I think they say K is the funniest sound. So Muck Duck is an interesting go-to for Dwight, considering 30 Rock thinks K's are funny. So Muck Duck is a hilarious phrase based on that logic. Right. That's right. Yeah. So they're kind of like trying to pep talk him in his office to decide what the best course of action is in regards to this. And for some reason, Dwight suggests that, to kind of like shake him down, to bully him back. And Andy's like, yes, I like that plan. That's what we're doing. For like no reason. There's no no one's decided, like there's no plan. It's just to be as tough to Grotti as they think Grotti's being to Michael, right? Right. That's kind of the end of it, right? Yeah. Yeah, no, it's true. Well, what I think is, I think they got into Michael's head in that they think this is not the last time they'll see him. Like Michael said, no. And now, based on that, there will be repercussions. So they convince him to do this lunch thing so that he doesn't just say no, but he puts his foot down so as to implore Grotti that he is not someone to be trifled with. The comparison of a horse in a horse's head in your bed comes up. Listen, not I've not known to be negative on this show. But yeah, there's like a fundamental point in this, like, I mean, we're like 7 minutes into the episode. So like within like this 3 minute point that we have to just believe that Andy and Dwight believe this. And then from there the rest of the episode plays out properly. But yeah, it is a bit of a weird stretch for these two guys to be so adamant in such a way that they're never adamant about anything, and specifically together. Yeah, but they get them. But in that instance, though, there are people in the office who see how ridiculous this all is, namely Oscar. Yeah, yeah. So we get him. Yeah. I gotta say, I mean, so I obviously, despite 5 years of office live-in with them, I know my job is really bad at not leaving people alone during vacation time. So my job would totally call someone on their wedding day to be like, "Hey, you were supposed to email that Excel out on Friday, but I can't find it. So do you think you could hop on a computer real quick?" And so it's definitely out there, and It's terrible. But yeah, so Oscar gives them a call, and it doesn't. It's not a conversation that goes over super well. And Oscar gets hung up on, but he plays it off as if it was a mutual goodbye. But they have no help. They have not helped Oscar in this situation. Right, right. Well, at what point too is like, I don't know, someone's got to have someone's cell phone number, right? Like that's a text message for sure. Hey, BTW, Michael being shaken down by mob? Question mark. Can't be true, right? Winky face, something like that. I don't know. However that text would go. Yeah, so the spending in Puerto Rico shows up as suspicious to Jim's credit card company. Boy, Kevin, not realizing what this woman is saying on the phone, answers all of the security questions based on documents on Jim's desk and gets the card canceled. It's great. And I feel like too, his cover up also is not the best one, right? He's like, why not let the robbers use it more? As opposed to saying, no, I'm not Jim Halpert. I'm just reading his credentials from his desk, you know? It's fine. So he tries to play it off and the card gets canceled. I can't imagine what it's like to deal with a canceled credit card while you're in another country. Right. Yeah. I mean, because I remember one time, what do you call it? We, Broken Jars had a Secret Santa, and we have an international crew around at Broken Jars. We are all over the place. We are very diverse. You know, we would not have a meeting with Mr. Brown because of a lack of diversity training. We are very good here. That being said, some fool in Europe wanted some D&D shit, so I ordered it for him. And my card got flagged because it thought someone had stolen it trying to order stuff in Norway or Sweden or wherever that kid's from. That's it. Same thing. Anyway, so yeah. Unfortunately, again, I was in the US and I was able to confirm that. But yeah, being in Puerto Rico, I imagine it's not great. Right, right. Yeah. There's a button in the oven. That's right. Yeah. The soybean. That's right. So the next thing that we see, we've got our trio of mobster fighting office folk arrive at the restaurant to meet Grady. For whatever reason, Michael and Dwight have arrived together, but Andy arrived separately. Probably because he needed more prep time. Yeah. Name. Yep. And I know, like of all the possible weapons possible, yeah. So he's got a crowbar, right? Tire iron. That's it. See, I also would be very good at speaking about car tools. So he's got his mechanic's outfit on, but he's still wearing like his work loafers. It's fine. So they all go into a fancy restaurant with their mechanic friend, and they are eagerly awaiting for Grotti to arrive. Now, Grotti shows some power moves here, right? Yeah. So do you know what gabagool is? So let me tell you, as a North Jersey fellow myself, though not Italian American, I can't help but feel like I've got a lot of that culture inside of me because I worked at an Italian deli for 3 years, and they called me fish hook because of my lip ring. So, I've got some street cred there. But gabagool, Mr. Jacob, is the name for capicola. If you know what capicola is. I mean, it's basically a cured meat made of pig, right? It's salami, it's pepperoni, it's gabagool. Now, my Italian girlfriend had told me also that gabagool is also the name of like a dish, but it's still essentially rolled deli meats on like a platter. It's more of like an appetizer kind of thing. So there must be an Italian person who works on the writing staff of that because I feel like gabagool, it's just going to sound like Italian mumbo jumbo. And they're going to miss that it is an actual real thing. So I just wanted to make sure to put it out there. Go to a deli, say I want some gabagool and fresh mutz, and they will give you a capicola sandwich with Fretz mozzarella. It's great. You'll love it. Delicious. Lesson learned. Okay. Anyways, gabagool. So he says, I want gabagool. Waitress doesn't understand what the hell he wants. He ends up getting spaghetti, I think. Mm-hmm. Right. Well, let me be honest with you, Jacob. Well, I've had terrible cars in the past, so I've had to jump my cars frequently. And I still find myself frequently trying to Google which one I put on first. In preparation for this episode, I'm aware you put positive first, but now as I'm speaking, I forget which car you put it on, the dead one or the not the dead one. So there you go. I don't know. I'd have to Google it. I'd be just like Andy the mechanic. Though I probably wouldn't destroy your car. Listen, I know what I saw. This man destroyed that car. There's... Yeah, in all types of weird places. It's true. Doesn't work out yet. The the spark tube is now broken, and he just goes back inside. Which honestly I feel like is how most mechanic shops probably work. It's how they can tack on all those extra fees. It's like, well, your spark tube broke, so you're gonna need new tires and some brake fluid. What is that? Blinker fluid. That's what you need. Blinker fluid. That's the joke. So, yeah, that's a good point. I had wondered that myself because he wants to meet with Michael probably because of his status as a decision maker for the branch, right? But it seems like he walks away with a personal policy. I mean, that confusion could be done because they decide to have this weird lunch date. Yeah, which is cheap. Because we're also talking about like coffee in like, what was this, 2013, something like that? 2009. Well, this ain't no 5-cent cup of coffee in one of those blue Greek cups, you know? This is, it's complicated. Okay, so we briefly visit the office again, and Kevin is revealing what he's done to Oscar. And Kevin basically, I mean, all the consoling aside, Kevin reveals that Oscar would love prison. Just because he would love it. Yeah. Not an insensitive joke at all. And then let's see. So we're actually... Yeah, no, I don't think so. Yeah, so like you said, basically Andy and Dwight fail to persuade Michael to... Andy, again, defaults to his roll over and die mentality. And he's the one pushing Michael to just sign up. Dwight's trying not to do it, but Grotti can speak to the man, and Michael walks away with a policy. Correct. Well, just before that, right. Well, so before they before they try to persuade Michael, Michael desperately makes a phone call to Jim and Pam for advice on how to deal with it. But unfortunately for Michael, the Beasleys get sucked into the Bermuda Triangle while this call is happening. And then you'll be saved. Yeah, it's great. Well, because I don't travel a lot, and when I do, it's definitely not international. But don't they have like special international SIM cards you plug in or whatever sometimes? Or is Port? Yeah, that's fair. But then I wonder, is Puerto Rico considered international because it's a Commonwealth? And you raise a good point. It's 2009, so it's very different than it is today. So yeah, they're just charging it to Dunder Mifflin. There's no ethnic issues with that. It's yeah. It's like, oh great, I could call the Queen of England. It's the only person I know by name, Queen England. Um, yeah. So our dynamic duo come into the office of Michael Scott, and they express how Grotti is not a mafioso man. Andy has a guy down at the FBI who is able to, run him through the system. Dwight has a guy at the sheriff's department who's able to run Andy's guy. Apparently, total sweetheart. Everything's on the up and up. So, yeah. Yeah, it's true. Well, it's like for me, it was just Dwight needing that last word, because like Andy went so as high as like the FBI, so Dwight's like, "Oh, I know people, you bitch." Yeah, so they convince Michael that it's all. Well, they basically convince him of the truth by accident that Grotti's just an insurance salesman who's a little pushy. So they get Michael to call Grotti back and give him the business. He's the only person that actually needs insurance is you. If you show your face around here again, got it? He's getting real tough. And of course, during his time, there's a point where Andy and Dwight are really excited about it, right? But then Michael takes it a little far, and then they start getting nervous because they still believe that he is part of the mob. Yeah, no, it's true. But Michael hangs up. The boys reveal their evil plan to Michael, and he says, like, I should be mad. But he's kind of running off of this, like, adrenaline high of telling off this mobster. That's right. And then lastly, so then Michael regales the story of how he stood down the mob to the office with everybody who participated listening in, and boy, is he. His events are slightly different than what we had just seen over the course of the last 23 minutes. And then, but Dwight affirms, he's like, yep, very close to what happened. And then Michael pulls one last, get me coffee, medium, or I'll send it back. That's right. And how do you return coffee? Go. And we end the episode with Kevin calling Jim. I guess what he's trying to do is just to make sure that they're all okay based on this mistake he's made. But Pam is not happy. It's true. Honestly, I'm sure Pam was getting a little flustered as Jim was playing some jokes, as he was doing his cracks or whatever, but Pam was probably getting a little upset. Right. So what do you give this episode, sir? Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty good. I think sometimes, and again, more full disclosure of my negative attitude about The Office, but the later episodes sometimes get a little bogged down by the story part of it, just because it kind of gets a little more fantastic. I kind of like that this one is kind of self-contained and doesn't focus so much on that, even though there is a moment where obviously you have to suspend belief. But I give it a 3 out of 5 gobble-ghouls. Gobble-ghouls. Okay. Before we get... Sorry. So I don't know if you've seen, Jacob, but there is a BuzzFeed article that is going around the internet that is very popular, explaining all of the ways that Jim is a dick. That's essentially the name of the article. I don't know if you've seen it. Based on your silence, I'm assuming not. But what are your thoughts on the assessment that Jim Halpert is a bag of dicks? This is my assessment. I've said bag of dicks. They just say dick. One dick, multiple dicks. It goes on to say that he's actually a nice guy prior to dating Pam. He's got some well-meaning mentalities, but it's all once he kisses her at casino night is when he starts to go downhill. He kind of mistreats Karen. The article takes some leaps that I don't wholeheartedly agree with. It says that he persuaded Karen to move to Scranton. I believe Karen moved on her own volition. 1, because she needed a job, and this was a job offer. And 2, because she liked Jim also. But obviously, he still likes Pam while dating Karen, and then eventually leaves her in the city to ask Pam on a date. And then once they're dating, he seems, he shows some disinterest when she's in art school because she doesn't know who Sarah Kaya Comes In is. Even though Sarah Kaya Comes In, doesn't matter, not listening, right? He's jealous of the art dude who's there, who wants her to stay in New York to do art. This article cites buying the house as a major point of no-nos for Jim. I don't think that makes him a dick. I think that's a misstep, probably, in making a huge life decision without consulting the person who is planning to spend the rest of their life with you. But that's fine. If it's a list, then maybe it does help to make him a dick. Of course, the athlete stuff is the biggest crime, which I wholeheartedly agree with, too. Once we get there, I don't know how I can contain my anger at Jim's behavior. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. All right. I mean, I think ultimately both of them are to blame. Not that. I mean, Roy is terrible, but technically speaking, Pam wasn't doing Roy any favors by staying with him, you know? Special. Yeah, no, that's a fair point. Well, I just wanted to bring it to your attention, just so you knew what the scuttlebutt was about Mr. Jim Halpert, that son of a bitch. Okay. So our cold open here is Jim and Pam coming back triumphantly. Yeah, yeah. Apparently, the ladies in his improv class hate him. So he's got. That's right. Um, and it's true. Though that being said, I believe this is the episode where Michael does get cold clocked because of his inappropriate behavior. Is this the next one? Double date. That son of a bitch. Okay, so yeah, so it's terrible, and then it ends with Meredith coming in saying, "What did you get us?" Yeah, and she's like, "What else?" Yeah, no. Yep. Yeah, Pam's mom is one of those. Well, I will say too. Well, and Helene too is a little bit more not high maintenance, but she seems fancier now than she did before. Right? Season two, Pam's mom seemed a little bit more in line with Pam herself. Right, like a 20-year difference. Maybe it was a young mom thing or something like that. Also, too, we know that Pam's mom knitted her that sweater when all the Stanford people come to, Scranton. So similarly, this version of Helene doesn't seem to be someone who would also crochet a sweater together or knit a sweater or whatever. So there's some oddities here, though. This seems like a character that would date Michael. The other version of Pam's mom doesn't seem like she would, because in this situation, that other Pam's mom seems normal, if that makes sense. Um, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's right. So as a sign of like his congratulations on the new job, yeah, he's like, take this duck, Mallard. Jim keeps calling it a duck. Um, it's great. It's great. And they're actually kind of loosely connected because at some point, Jim is kind of so upset by what's happening with the Pam Michael thing. When he finds out about this Mallard, we'll talk about it, but he kind of gets like in the zone. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Well, and the follow up line too, while he says that, right? It's like, and the seats go all the way down. It's like, oh god, so gross. Yeah. Right. Let me let me ask you this. Is Jim wrong in not revealing instantly this revelation? I even think this might be one of these things on the list he just looked up. But I don't think so, right? It seems like he's just trying to put the fire out before it becomes a thing. Yeah. It's not. I guess because Pam gets mad in a way that it almost seems like she thinks that he's covering for Michael, and I think she's just missing the mark. Like you're saying, I think he kept it quiet to see if he could stop it, but maybe he kept it quiet for too long. Right. Yeah. Throwing stars, Mr. A Knife. Not like that, Jacob. Certainly not like that. But no, it is difficult. But well, so he makes his decision. Doesn't say anything. Tries to go about the day as normal, but then at one moment he leaves the office, I think, to give Michael the gift they got from Puerto Rico, and there's some feedback that he hears from the mallard. So he flips it upside down and sees that there is this fancy microphone embedded in the wood of this mallard, and now we know that the cat is out of the bag, so to speak, right? Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah. Right. I would definitely go with the seashell clock, though I suppose I could re-gift the rum. Seems kind of lame, but I could do that. I don't want the clock either, honestly. They both sound like terrible gifts. I'd rather like a yeah. Right. That's right. No, it's like, yeah, it's like a fancy restaurant, and it's because Aaron says the name of this place that Pam's ears kind of perk up, and she's like, "Oh, like that sounds like a date thing. Like you only take a date to that restaurant like that." And Pam kind of becomes her own worst enemy in this situation because she's kind of egging Michael on to give give up who he's going on this date with, right? Yeah, yeah, um, yeah. So it's this like great situation where like it happens when Oscar too is trying to figure out if Angela and Dwight had sex on his desk, but she's like, who? And then like Michael just gives this like blank stare in like the most terrifying way where he's just like chant, he's just putting it all out there. He's like, I'm banging your mom. I'm banging your mom. Look at my eyes. I'm banging your mom. And slowly Pam is revealing it, and then she just kind of turns around and runs, no, as the door slowly closes. It's a great moment. It's probably my second favorite no on the show, following Michael's no to Toby upon his return from Costa Rica. Yeah. Frank and Beans. Um, right. He says, don't leave your stuff on my desk. Puts a pen in the pen cup, and we're supposed to be distracted by the gift of the duck. But, right, the real listening device seems to be in a pen. Well, I ultimately think that both the devices would have been useless in that instance, you know? I think Dwight's legitimately flustered. Because they're both recording that room, and that room is just blasting whatever the hell it's blasting. That's a good point, right. Right. No, that's a good point. And he is listening to something live, so I guess it is the duck that's the live feed. Yeah, so Jim points a sign at the camera that says, Dwight picked the wrong day to put a wooden mallard in my office. It's crafty. It's all very crafty of Dwight. But so they have this meeting basically to figure out how the office can help communities and such. Kind of as a way to like move on away from the Pam thing, but that's what it was. Yep. Right. Yeah. So they're looking for ideas as to how they can help the community, and they'll get a $50 gift certificate to a restaurant they want. And Pam is basically just the peanut gallery for sure, right? Let's see, what does she say? So I've got some lines here. Yeah, and everybody claps. Yeah, she also says something like, I know it will help the community. You could leave it. And Michael tries to play it off by pretending to walk out the room, but I mean, this is some solid office that we're seeing here because it's awkward and not everybody in the room is privy to what's happening, and Michael's doing his like blank stare stuff. That's right. Right. Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Yeah. Well, so she expresses all this, and then Helene actually ends up calling Michael during this meeting. Yeah, exactly. And Angel is trying to give a legitimate suggestion as to how to help communities, but everybody hears that Michael's having this conversation a foot outside the door of the conference room. So Kevin keeps trying to shush her. And then Michael ends his call with "Nobody talks to my baby that way," and comes into the room and immediately gives Pam the Pamela Morgan. That's it. And you need to apologize to your mother right now. Angela's still trying to talk through the whole thing, of course, because she thought she had the floor. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And then Pam's like, well, he could still. Yeah. No. Yeah. She's not off. I know. This is a whole nother level. This is some. Now, Pam is kind of yelling at him, and everybody's kind of saying how inappropriate this is once it's revealed that the lover is Pam's mom. But Michael has a pretty legitimate little bit here where he goes on to say, like, what's so wrong with me that I can't find happiness, And it's a kind of like a touching moment, and all the jokes are kind of gone, and he has this bit, and everybody has these solemn faces thinking about it, and Phyllis kind of says, good luck, whatever. And Pam is like, just not having any of it. Oscar wheelchair mom bit happens. It's great. And now you know, the rivalry is on. Pam is against Michael, and she is ready to mutiny the entire office. You know, and there's some interesting. Oh yeah, yeah, it's great. It's all awesome, and she's super mad. Um, that's right. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Right. Yeah, and it kind of works. Pam is starting to feel a little bit better, and Dwight's really going for it. He's got his jacket, he's got a hose, he's got a bucket, he's got a squeegee. Even know where he got a squeegee. Um, just has it. Yeah. Flipped it. That's right. Yeah, that's a good point. So yeah, so maybe he's just got cleaning supplies at it closely all the time. That's right. Yeah. I know. Clearly, showing that he's insane. Yeah. I mean, so this is planting the seed for Dwight's what the hell is it called? His like plan to destroy Jim or something like that. That's it. Yeah, yeah. So obviously, Jim getting this promotion is something that Dwight hated wholeheartedly, and now we're starting to see Dwight start to take some actions against this revelation to him. All right, so it's tough, but I work very hard to make my living space everything I need it to be. So I feel like I wouldn't go anywhere. I'd sit. It's a common thing that I've said before, but I'd remove my pants. I would sit in a place with one of my large televisions and a console hooked up, and I would, you know, ADHD style switch between playing video games and watching something on Netflix for 16 hours, probably eating pizza rolls, and then I would go to bed later than I wanted to. I think that's really all I could ever ask out of life. What about you? Right. All right. Well, that's a better answer. Yeah, it was good, and it kind of brings back some of the awkwardness that I like of earlier seasons. So I gave it a 3.7 out of 5. Do not call my mother your lover. Right. Yeah. Great. Awesome and totally reasonable. Yeah, Warren Lieberstein is Paul Lieberstein's brother, who plays Toby's brother eventually, and also briefly married to Angela Kinsey. So that doesn't make that being awkward at all later, but it's fine. Yeah, and then they got divorced. It's all sad. Everybody cried. It was terrible. Right, right. And yeah, I don't know. So this is kind of an interesting episode, at least because we get to see Jim and Michael be that mentor mentee again in a way that we don't really get to see frequently. We saw it during Survivor Man. Obviously, the first episode of the whole show. There's that bit where Jim comes to Michael because he needs help selling something or whatever. And a couple other instances like this. So this is a little different, I guess, because they are technically equals, like you said. And, obviously not everybody is okay with that equalness. So Michael's always lording over, and Jim has his own way of dealing with things. Let's continue. So, yeah, so they go, they're off to the thing, and he keeps grilling Jim. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and it's ridiculous because like it's not like Jim's never sold anything before, right? But whatever. Right, right. And then there's another interesting pairing that happens in this episode. Some of our favorite salespeople are paired off to go do some selling. That's right, which traditionally is calling, but instead they're just going up to the office. It seems like a waste of time, honestly. You're sending two people to drive around to meet people who they presumably have never talked to before, hence the cold part of it, to possibly get a sale. Like a welcome. Right. All right, that's fair. Well, so they go, and so what's interesting is that Pam is starting to show, right? And without fail, every single place that they go to will bring this up. Right, right. Yeah, yeah. And Andy notices how many times she says no. The nose. It definitely is. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah, so obviously the sale does not work. Andy also makes the improper comment about Pam being the surrogate for his super hot model girlfriend so that she doesn't wreck her body. It's terrible. You would imagine that these are things that a family business would not want to hear. Well, let me say, they are being rocky with Andy already. You know, we've talked about it a bunch before, but it doesn't make sense why Andy becomes this terrible salesperson. He was presumably a relatively high position in Stanford. I mean, maybe that was just based on seniority, but I don't know. They don't just give you promotions because you're a useless sack of crap who's been there a long time. So Andy was good at something at some point. Then he comes to Scranton, gets sent to anger management, but he becomes an active member of the sales team, you know? And then he starts to level out though once him and Aaron start doing more together because he becomes more interesting as a character outside of just his work ethic, Because also from what we've seen, aside from our main characters, everybody else we only know in the context of The Office. So similarly, Andy seems to be really tied to The Office. Once he starts dating Aaron, though, we get to kind of see behind the curtain a little bit into some of his own things, Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's reasonable. I mean, again, we're coming up with theories as to why a real world Andy would become worse at his job. What's really happening is the writers of the show decided that they need somebody to be terrible. And they're like, well, let's pick Andy because he's more famous than Phyllis Smith or Stanley's name that I forget. Leslie Barker. That's it. Oh, Stanley Hudson, yeah. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Right. And it's great because, everybody's cracking jokes or whatever. And for whatever reason, Toby comes in and he's like, hey, Michael. And then Michael freaks out. He's like, no, 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 no. Everybody in the conference room. So that's another. Yeah. That's right. Yes, a very thinly veiled threat. I don't know. It's a little cryptic. Yeah, that's right. Yep, that's right. And the whole time, Dwight is just translating the puns as if Michael didn't get them already. Um, so he calls this meeting in the conference room, and this is. He says, "I'm not usually the butt of the joke. I'm usually the face of the joke." Which, honestly, in this context, is the same thing, but that's totally fine. And then he says he wished Jim had fallen into that pond. Right. Right. Yeah. Right, because then I think Oscar says it's literally never been the case. That's right. Twice, I think, right? So then some other people start to add things. Let's see. We've got. That's right. Yeah. That's right. Well, I don't know if they have picked on her because no one makes a joke about Dwight's nose. That's kind of a revelation to the room. And then they're like, oh, yeah, it is kind of small. So maybe the orphan thing is similar. Well, she doesn't. Yeah, and she also doesn't want people to pick on her for her eating habits because she eats like a squirrel. That's right. Uh, yeah. Right. Right. Um, and then Creed, it's Creed's turn, and he says, "If I write it down, I can't be charged with it." And Dwight says, "No one said that." And we never find out what it would have been, but we know we've seen Creed come back from crimes he's committed, so we can assume what it might be. Right. Right. Yeah. And it kind of devolves into this weird thing of Andy talking to Pam's stomach, and yeah, yeah, and yeah, it's crazy, but it does seem like the woman that they're talking to seems kind of interested in dealing with them. But in a later conversation, they're driving away, and we find out that Andy reveals that he's kind of had an interest, obviously, in raising a family. His intentions to marry Angela weren't just because he's trying to bang her, but he's kind of got this dream future with kids and stuff like that. So he kind of correct, right? I agree. For whatever reason, and yeah, so in expressing that he studied Lamaze coaches and stuff, and then faking the whole thing with Pam in this situation, it kind of brings all that back up to him, and he kind of gets a little carried away or whatever. But it's kind of this sad moment for Andy because he's kind of lost at the moment. Similarly, this is setting him up to be with Aaron. Yeah, right, right. Because it just seemed like a people thought the new girl was attractive kind of thing. But yeah, he does openly share that he is into Aaron, and Pam kind of takes note of that. Because what are we saying? Jim and Pam are probably now 30, 32, 31, something like that. He's like late 30s. Yeah, I agree. With more experience. Yeah. Yeah, it was like the worst way that whole thing could go down. Yeah. Who is fine at best. Right. Yeah. Right. So we get back to the office, and Jim and Michael are having a bit of a heart to heart, and Jim shares some pretty good advice if taken appropriately. in that you kind of have to make fun of yourself in a situation like this because you don't give, then the rest of the people don't have ammunition, right? So Michael vaguely understands what's being said, and he goes out to the main sales floor area and decides to kind of give himself a small little roast. So he talks about falling into the pond and cracks jokes about it, and everybody seems to be having a good time. Yeah. Yeah, he goes a little far, and he ends up making himself sad, and everybody in the room feels a little awkward. Um, and then before Michael leaves, he just looks at Jim and says, "Thanks a lot, man," as if Jim had told him about this total breakdown in front of everybody. Yeah, basically, Jim pulls this Michael Jackson move. So when Michael flails around to grab something to steady himself, Jim is not there. And it's an interesting moment where we find out that Jim actually let this happen because, like we said earlier, he's been babied. He is obviously a good salesperson enough so to get this promotion, and Michael's been kind of overseeing the whole thing. So it feels like if Jim could let him fall into the koi pond, that makes him not seem so bad in relation. Yeah, right, right. So Michael realizes that Jim is jealous of Michael's kind of skill set. And he says it without thinking, but a second later, he kind of has this revelation of like, oh snap, I've got something that Jim doesn't have. And he kind of takes that, and then later on, Jim's in the that break space getting coffee, and Oscar does the pull away, kind of teasing Jim for it, and Michael's there, and they kind of have this nice moment where Michael obviously seems to have come to terms with the whole thing, and yeah, Michael opens the door for Jim, and he also does the pull away, and it's very humorous. Our hearts laugh in this moment. And the episode ends with so Aaron's shown a lot of oddities. We didn't really mention it in the last episode, but when they come back, Pam tries to have candy for the office that Aaron refuses to put on the table unless Michael gives consent. Here, at the end of this episode, Pam is trying to give Aaron some documents to fax, and Aaron says, like, you got to hand them to me upside down. I don't want to accidentally read them. As if that was a rule that anybody had ever said at any given time about this stuff. Yeah, if it's like, right. But it's here where Pam tries to plant the seed of Andy, and we find out that Aaron is kind of into it anyways, though, because Andy is as cool like Marlon Wayans. Get out of town, bro. Let me tell you, the only thing that Andy did wrong was the boat thing. And the boat thing was like, but that's the thing. I don't think that's in keeping in Andy's character. We'll get there. It's a couple seasons from now. But I'm just saying that that moment is like, that is the confusion that we felt with Dwight and Andy bugging this dude about being in the mob. It just doesn't make sense. Why does he do it? He does it and he ruins everything. Everything is wrong. That's crazy. I'm gonna give it a. I'm gonna give it another 3.7 out of 5 koi stories. Right. Rough. And our last episode of the evening, Double Date. Yeah. Right. That's fair. Well, you're wrong, but I respect your opinion. Scott Stotts is terrible. Yeah, it's true. Right. Right. And then Michael has a yeah. I mean, he doesn't quite get the math right, but it's the first time apparently he's made aware that Helene is older than him. And it's just one of those like perfect situations where like the whole conversation goes in such a way to continue to reinforce this idea that Michael now has about Helene and that she's like this geriatric woman who's basically not functioning anymore. Even though realistically all that we learn is that she's lived her life. She's traveled, she's done things and stuff, and that, that's exactly right. No, I hate it. Don't make me do it. That's right. They're like, well, who makes bagels, Jacob? Jewish people. A lot of Jewish people in New York City, I'm gonna say. That's the joke. So just another instance. So don't. That's not me. That's Dwight being racist. That's what's happening. Not for nothing. He probably going to come to Jersey. We have a very diverse culture over here. It's fine. Whatever. Gabagool. Yeah. So he gets these bagels. Yeah. 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 It's a 2 hour drive. I mean, he's got them on this like little wicker thing, which maybe he put together in the lobby or something downstairs. But yeah, those are pretty much the opposite of a fresh bagel. Those are 2 hour old bagels. 3 hours, really. That's a far drive. Yeah, I mean, they're just bagels. I mean, it's tough, right? Because like everybody like has their place. So I wake up one morning near one buddy's place, and they're like, "Oh, this bagel's great." And another day, you're at another place, and they're like, "These are the bagels to get." I'm in Jersey, people are like, "These are the bagels," and I'm in Connecticut, "These are the bagels," and I'm like, "Guys, do you have Taylor ham?" That's the question. That's right. Like I get it, it's bagels, but do you have pork roll? That's the question. So that being said, Northern New Jersey is the place to get bagels because we have Taylor ham. You're welcome. So he brings this and he brings all the fixins, all the spreads and stuff like that. And he shares them with everybody in the office. And as he gives them a bagel, he has a very odd way of saying you're welcome. He says, "You owe me one," which is just weird to begin with, right? Yeah. Right. No, that's exactly right. Or like if someone's already trying to pay you back and be like, "Oh, don't worry about it. Get me back later," or whatever. But yeah, it's he's approaching it. That's right. Yeah. So he we find out that he is basically accruing favors from the entire office, so that one day he can cash in this favor, as if people will be unable to disagree because of this social contract that has been created between themselves and Dwight, to overthrow Jim from his position as co-manager of Dunder Mifflin Scranton. And I gotta say too, yeah, right, right, yeah. I mean, Dwight doesn't know that. Cut him some slack. Yeah. Yeah, and I gotta say too, these bagels just look like regular bagels. He didn't really like. I don't see poppy seed. I don't see everything. I don't see onion. The yeah, yeah, which seems racist. It's fine. Yeah, if you ever, well, I guess it doesn't help. But I was gonna say, I think if you go to a cheesecake factory, they give you a basket of bread with different types of breads, and one of those is a pumpernickel. It's probably the bread of that basket of breads. The rest seems subpar. It's a little sweeter, so I just have to imagine it's like a sweeter wheat, maybe. But I could be lying. Yeah. Yeah. How's it look? Does it look good? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I couldn't tell you what it looks like. I mean, I'm trying to glean what it is off of the reflection of your glasses, but it's not working. I see. Yeah. So, and Dwight finally talks Michael into taking two bagels because he wasn't going to. He had some fish stick sandwiches, which is an aphrodisiac for breakfast. That's right. Dwight drops some science knowledge about how, scientifically speaking, you have to be hungry. Yep. So Michael grabs two bagels, got some cheese, and there it is. So basically, the staff is now going to be indebted to Dwight for some reason moving forward. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. There is an odd moment for some reason where Ryan is trying to convince Aaron to pose for some photography that he does. Well, that's true, but I try to figure out why. Like the scene seems to be unconnected to anything else aside from the fact that we see that he takes topless pictures of Kelly in the office. Yeah, yeah, no, it's true. At least that's right. So Helene shows up, and they are all gearing up to go toward this birthday lunch. The office is not being super cool about it and being very blunt about some things, specifically Kevin talking about sex. You don't got to say it though. We all assume, you know, that's fair. That's reasonable. Well, so Pam has this plan with Aaron, and I will say that this scene is also listed in the reasons why Jim Halpert is a dick. But essentially, Pam is trying to pull a Jim, so to speak, by creating a fake emergency that only she can solve so as to get out of an awkward meal that Michael is part of. Now, last time this happened, it was Jim, and there was a fire in his apartment, and he was trying to leave the dinner party. Yeah, I mean, we can get real cyclical with this conversation because what does it say about Helene dating this man who we know she's heard terrible things about from her daughter, you know? So it's really everybody's fault. Well, presumably there could have been some other occasion where Pam was going to see her mom. You know, maybe she was going to stop by her place later that night or something. I mean, I would say that this lunch is specifically because Michael is there too, you know? It's fine. Well, if Jim was as crafty as he pretends to be with all those snarky faces he makes at the camera, he could have utilized this opportunity to get out of it as well. He'd be like, oh boy, Pam and I are going to have to go take a trip down to this place or something, but he doesn't. Sells her out. Cold. Talk about throwing her under a bus, bro. I was going to say choo choo, but that's like, it's fine. It doesn't work. Aaron tries valiantly. Jim is able to, quote unquote, solve the situation. Yep. Yeah, I was a little confused by how that brief moment acted out because Creed kind of is, oh, thank God, almost as like an impulsive response, you know? But then based on the talking head, it sounds like the previous response was acted, right? So what did Creed really want? He's saying the paper should have never arrived, something's wrong. So why would he say, oh, thank God, in relief previously? It's confusing. Let's see. So Jim says, turns out the paper was there all along. Pam sighs, and then Creed says, oh, thank God. Smiles and walks away as if nothing happened. And then we immediately have the talking head where he says something's up. That paper was never supposed to arrive. I mean, maybe, right, maybe he was just bad at it. Was a bad character Creed Bratton acting moment, right? Because what he should have done was not act like anything was weird because this is literally his job is to make sure paper is getting to where it's supposed to go or whatever, right? Because he's quality assurance or quality assurance. Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, thank you. Yeah, that's a fair point. So, okay, so it's just the character of Creed being bad at lying, despite his many lies. Got it. Okay, that's fair. Right. Yeah. Well, they have this whole conversation about like what Helene's going to be called as the grandmother, you know, Nana, Grandma, whatever. And yeah, Michael is just kind of bugging out during that whole bit because it's hitting him about how old she is. Right. 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 Yeah. Right. Yeah, so it's this awkward thing where like he comes back and he's trying to ramp up to dump Pam. Nope, sorry, dump Helene using Pam as the reason. And then Pam cuts him off. She's like, "No, listen, it took me a while, but I'm here now. Now, you make my mom happy. Let's do it." And then Michael kind of sighs and he's a bit bummed out. So he's like, "Okay, so that's gonna make what's following that much harder." And then he tries again, but now with the truth about the age issue. What one of my favorite lines though is, "Who is Kafka-esque?" I don't know who that is. Yeah. So it's just so Jim and Pam kind of sit by and watch this whole thing happen, and yeah, and then they break up. And of course, the worst part is there is an actual car ride home where they have to deal with that. So Helene's 58. What is she supposed to do? Michael's driving. Pam's trying to make him feel better, and then Michael does try to chime in at some point and gets shot down real quick. Just totally misses the mood of the room, right? Yes. Yep. And that's the thing. It's agreed upon that he will be hit, and that's it. Later on, it's all strongly assumed that he's about to get whacked in the face, right? I just thought that was odd. It could have been like a gut punch or something, but yeah, she wants to punch him in the face. It's fine. Right. Yeah. 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 Well, right. Yeah, yeah. Well, and just to go back real quick, because my favorite bit of that gym part is that he's like, "I just need a couple of days." Like it's so obvious that Michael's got like 2 hours left. Yeah, no. So the office is not being very kind to Michael in this context because Pam is coming in very prepared. Right. Yeah. Right. 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 That's right. Yeah. 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 I mean, no. Yeah. Yeah. He's halfway to crying already. Yeah, and I mean that kind of everybody starts to disperse or whatever. Michael's kind of crying. Jim's asks Pam, do you feel better? And she's like, no. Which, of course, violence is never the solution, guys. Right. And then, so we're back in the office, and Dwight is trying to put frozen chicken onto Michael's face. So I tried to look it up. I thought I had heard an old wives' tale about putting meat on your face when you're hurt, because it's something like the proteins in the meat leak onto your face and help the healing process. But I googled it. That's not true. Essentially, that's what it was. Yeah. Well, because I figured we've seen this since like Looney Tunes, right? So like, why? But I guess it's because ice wasn't specifically readily available, and you didn't want to waste ice on someone's face. So you use the meat because you could rephrase it using the ice that you didn't put on someone's face. So that's fine. Whatever. Well, so essentially, too, so following this B storyline, we find out that Dwight's plan totally goes out the window because with all the give backs to each other and taco lunches and stuff, ultimately, Andy gifts Dwight it's like Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks gift card, and he says it's from the whole office. Probably not. But based on Dwight's verbal logic here, it's establishing that now everybody has paid Dwight back for this favor that he had accrued. Yeah. And then Michael doesn't want to give him a favor, so Dwight's basically just out. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. All right. So, what do you think, sir? What are you going to give this episode? Nice. You know what? I gave it the same thing. It's 4 out of 5. I don't have a word. I'm just going to say mushrooms. 4 out of 5 mushrooms. Yeah, no, this is a good one. I mean, I'm with you. Generally, I'm like in these one-offs. I mean, this is a bit of an arc. It's it's 2 episodes, give or take. I mean, ultimately, and we're just getting deeper and deeper into episodes I don't like, Jacob. That's what it is. I'm sorry, everybody who posts comments and questions and all that stuff, but I like focusing on the people. And just as we progress with the show, everything gets more outlandish. We talk about corporate buyouts, we talk about these like big power struggles. We talk about these crazy, fantastical relationships, uncharacteristic boat trips, hashtag truth bomb. So it's these personal moments is what I like, I guess is my point. So yeah, yeah. It's the dinner party for a new generation. Yeah, it's a rough one. Yeah, so bone up on that subreddit, watch the episode, and then join us in 2 weeks. Anything else, sir? We will see you on the flippity flip. Bye.